What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you can have me at your next event. Maybe. I hope so. I like to play for the people. If you would like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. But for today, let's learn together on what makes you smarter. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Saturday, April 11th, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, U.S. reports highest daily number of coronavirus fatalities. The United States reported at least 2,074 deaths resulting from the novel COVID-19 coronavirus Friday, the highest numbers of fatality the country has seen in a single day since the pandemic began. Overall in the U.S., there have been nearly 19,000 deaths and more than 500,000 confirmed cases. New York remains the center of the U.S. outbreak, and on Friday, Governor Andrew Cuomo, Democrat, announced the state had recorded its highest single-day death toll yet at 779. Quote, "That is so shocking and painful and breathtaking. I don't even have the words for it," end quote, he said. The state did report its first decline in patients in intensive care units. As of Saturday morning, the global death toll stood at more than 103,000, and the number of confirmed cases had surpassed 1.7 million. Data compiled by Johns Hopkins University showed. This is according to NPR and CNN. Number 2, Trump. U.S. won't reopen until we know this country is going to be healthy. President Trump on Friday formally rejected his pledge to, quote, reopen, end quote, the U.S. by Easter and loosen CDC guidelines, saying that won't happen, quote, until we know this country is going to be healthy, end quote. He did say he's assembling a task force that will help determine how we restart the economy eventually. Trump acknowledged COVID-19 hospitalizations and new cases were, quote, flattening substantially, suggesting that we are near the peak, end quote, but said strict social distancing guidelines would continue to prevent the virus from rebounding. Trump also claimed the U.S. is testing 100,000 people every day for COVID-19 and claimed, quote, anyone who needs a test, end quote, can get one, even though many people have reported that's not true. The FDA is currently working on a, quote, blood-based serology test, end quote, to determine if people who recover from the coronavirus are immune to it, Trump added. This is according to BBC and CNBC. Number 3, coronavirus restrictions muffle Easter celebrations. Health officials worldwide are urging people not to travel or congregate over Easter weekend due to the potential for social gatherings to spread the COVID-19 virus. In France, police are patrolling the streets to dissuade quarantine violators, while law enforcement in the UK will attempt to halt regional travel. In Italy, which was the highest death toll of any country in the world, the Vatican has celebrated all of Holy Week without the public for the first time in modern history. In the U.S., some churches still plan to celebrate Easter as normal, despite the CDC's warning against gatherings. President Trump did give up his plan to, quote, reopen, end quote, the country by Easter, but didn't specifically warn against social gatherings in his Friday Easter message. This is according to the Associated Press and The Hill. Number 4, Google, Apple partnered to track coronavirus cases. Apple and Google are partnering to develop a, quote, contact tracing, end quote, program that could inform people if they've come into contact with COVID-19. Users of both Apple and Google phones, that's around 3 billion people, will be able to opt in to let the companies automatically track their phones and make note of people they come close to. If a user later tests positive for the new coronavirus, They can tell the program, and it will notify anyone who'd been around that person within a 14-day window. Both companies note contact tracing will be strictly voluntary, and users will have to opt in to begin being tracked, and that the government won't see the information. Still, privacy advocates remain concerned of potential power grabs during the global crisis. This is according to Time. Number 5, Boris Johnson walking in hospital following ICU stint. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has reportedly started taking short walks while he remains hospitalized due to the novel COVID-19 coronavirus. Johnson was admitted to a London hospital Sunday evening with persistent symptoms of the virus, 10 days after he tested positive. His condition worsened and he was transferred to intensive care, though he did not require a ventilator. Johnson's health then improved and he was moved back to a regular ward, where a Downing Street spokesman said he is in, quote, very good spirits, end quote, and is in the early stages of recovery. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, the number of confirmed coronavirus cases has surpassed 74,000, and the death toll has neared 9,000. This is according to BBC and Reuters. Number 6, IRS says stimulus payments will begin next week. The Internal Revenue Service said Friday that some people will begin receiving their novel COVID-19 coronavirus stimulus payments from the U.S. government next week, beginning with people who have filed 2018 and 2019 tax returns and authorized direct deposit. Payments for Social Security benefits will also reportedly go out soon. The Wall Street Journal reported that the first wave of payments, which start at $1,200, were transferred to banks Friday afternoon. Those who haven't filed taxes, authorized direct deposit, or receive Social Security may have to wait weeks or months before they get their money. But the IRS launched a new tool that will allow low-income people who aren't required to file tax returns to provide some basic information so they can receive their checks sooner. This is according to CNN and the Wall Street Journal. Number 7, drug shows promise in limited coronavirus treatment study. A study published in the New England Journal of Medicine on Friday showed promising results after the antiviral drug remdesivir was used in a, quote, compassionate use, end quote, trial to treat a small group of novel COVID-19 coronavirus patients. A majority of patients improved after being treated with the drug, which is produced by Gilead Sciences. The study was limited by the small sample size. Only 53 patients were monitored, and the fact that it wasn't placebo-controlled, so results aren't definitive. But it's still a positive step. Of the 53 patients, 36 saw improvements, 25 were discharged, and 7 died. Many global health authorities reportedly believe remdesivir is the best hope for treating COVID-19, and full clinical trials are continuing. This is according to the Washington Post and The Hill. Number 8, first person to contract Ebola in 50 days in DRC dies. The Democratic Republic of the Congo said Friday that the first person to contract Ebola in more than 50 days, a 26-year-old man, has died. The man developed symptoms at the end of March and eventually tested positive, ending hopes that the latest outbreak of the disease has subsided. The DRC was prepared to declare an end to the Ebola epidemic, the largest in the country's history, on Sunday, but that's no longer the case. The disease has killed more than 2,200 people in the DRC, which is also dealing with rebel attacks in the eastern part of the country and the novel COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic since August 2018. Quote, this is now a triple emergency, end quote, said Kate Moger of the International Rescue Committee. This is according to Reuters and Al Jazeera. Number 9, Iran begins easing coronavirus measures. Iran, which has experienced the worst novel COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak in the Middle East, began easing restrictions Saturday after a nationwide lockdown. Government offices outside Tehran reopened, and 2/3 of employees went into work, while the rest remained remote. Women with young children were reportedly given priority to remain at home if necessary. Businesses in Tehran will be allowed to reopen next Saturday, so long as they register with authorities and adhere to social distancing guidelines. Iran has confirmed more than 4,300 people have died of the disease, but the government tried to resist wide-scale shutdowns, arguing quarantines could be devastating economically considering the country is already under the strain of U.S. sanctions. Washington has offered humanitarian aid to help Iran fight the virus, but Tehran has turned it down. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 10. Japan now stresses the 2021 Olympics might not happen either. The CEO of the Tokyo Olympics Organizing Committee, Toshiro Muto, said Friday that due to uncertainty over the coronavirus outbreak, it is possible that the games might not happen in 2021 either. The 2020 Summer Olympics were originally scheduled to start in late July and were bumped back to next year due to the global health crisis. Quote, I don't think anyone would be able to say if it's going to be possible to get the pandemic under control by next July or not, end quote, Muto said. He stressed that, quote, rather than think about alternative plans, mankind should bring together all of its technology and wisdom to work hard so they can develop treatments, medicines, and vaccines, end quote. This is according to NBC News. That's 10 things you need to know today for Saturday, April 11th, 2020. Thank you for listening. This has been What Makes You Smarter. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. Be careful out there. It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here. If you like what you hear, I encourage you to follow What Makes You Smarter on social media. Find it on Facebook at What Makes You Smarter, Instagram at What Makes You Smarter, Twitter at SmarterWhat, and YouTube. Username Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Smarter podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Smarter podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. My personal favorite, learn with me on my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time for What Makes You Famous. Support What Makes You Smarter podcast using the PayPal, paypal.me/Keys Dan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Smarter is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for